Welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a best of 3 series of Terran versus Protoss. We're in game number 1 in the top left-hand corner of the map, playing with the red Protoss pieces. We have none other than STATS, a legendary Protoss player who recently has looked very impressive once again. I'm excited to see exactly how he does here today, because his opponent, an absolute channel favorite, playing with the blue Terran pieces, somebody who also already went to the military and completed his mandatory military service quite a while ago at this point. We're looking at none other than ByuN's main command center. The battles of the old men, right? I think that's what this comes... Actually, I don't really know exactly how old they are. Let me look it up. ByuN, according to Wikipedia, born in the year 1993. Basically ancient. Stats, how old is Stats? 1992? That's the best year. Yeah, completely not biased here myself whatsoever. All jokes aside though, there's no denying that ByuN has been a lot more successful after coming back from his military service. It's been quite a while for Stats actually. I think he completed his... If I have to make a guess, probably late 2022? It's been quite a while. For some reason, I don't know if it's just the amount of practice that he's been putting in, but for some reason, at least initially, for the first year or so of him coming back, he just hasn't looked quite as impressive. Then, since IEM Kijkwijzer this year, which he did manage to qualify for, although he had a relatively easy route getting over to Poland, but anyways, as far as like, you know, the tournament qualification goes, I don't know about his flights. I can imagine the flight from Korea to Poland is a bit of a long one. Anyways, long story short, he had a relatively easy time, but then at the tournament he looked decent, but he didn't look quite like the Stats that we are used to seeing, right? At least the one that we used to see a lot back in the day. However, after he came back from Poland, even though he had a decent performance, he's been looking a lot better. At least in the games that I've seen him play, he's been looking far more impressive as of late. It's really only been a month or two, right? It's not really been that long, but... Yeah, he's been putting in a lot more work, it seems, or at the very least, maybe... Oh. The probe got the kill. Oh, I love that. Anyways, at least lately, maybe it's a confidence booster too, right? Where... Is this a quick triple CC? It is. Ay. Anyways, maybe it's a confidence booster where... Stats maybe didn't entirely believe in himself anymore, and then he qualified for the tournament. I'm just speculating here, but when he did, then he actually had a pretty good showing against some of the top tier players. I mean, maybe he started getting that vibe again, right? Or he's like, wait a second, maybe I can actually do this. Maybe, yeah, I didn't believe it was possible, but maybe I can actually get this done. And, well, whatever it is, he's been looking a lot more impressive as of late. Now, one thing though that Stats has also looked like quite a bit is like a bit of a turtler. Yeah, he was known as the Shield of Ire back in the early days of StarCraft 2. He was known as the Shield of Ire in the similar sense, I guess, as Showtime is known as the Mauer. He's very good at that defensive style, and that's exactly what he's been doing again as of late too. Problem right here for Stats is that he's very predictable because of it. This is a triple CC, triple barracks opener right here for ByuN. Now, I hope for Stats' sake that he picks up on the timing of the third. No, he does not. He is not even thinking about it. He didn't check for the other third base location, and he's also not checking for the one right over here on the right. So ByuN, rather than playing the matchup, or rather than playing the map, he is playing the opponent. And I love this. I don't think this is a very good ladder build at all, because it really requires your opponent to play a relatively passive style. Stats does have a nice and early third Nexus as well, though. So, you know, he is happy to play the macro game here, but I think overall this is a little bit better for ByuN just because he's gonna get a massive economical boost. Plus, on top of that, he's able to survive with just a bunch of Marines. Get those upgrades nice and early, then eventually go into a factory and a starport. A couple more barracks, and we're booming. In the meantime, it is gonna be a Blink Stalker opener here for Stats. We're doing this off of just 2 warp gates. So, relatively small amount of potential right now for our Protoss player to actually warp in units. But the units that he can warp in are gonna be quite feisty. +1 coming up as well here for the Terran. He doesn't know anything, by the way. Like, ByuN has not really seen anything. He saw, I guess, that there was a sentry. So, maybe an opener into, like, Dark Templar would be kind of difficult for the Terran, or for the Protoss rather, to pull off right here against Terran. But there's no denying that this would still be a very tough game for ByuN if it would be some sort of cheesy opener for stats. Luckily for him, he's been able to get away with murder. Unluckily for him, though, the third Nexus timing here is quite good for stats. And this is also something that ByuN does not currently know about. We've got ourselves a Robo Bay together with a Forge as well. So even though Stats is playing, in his mind, a super greedy game, I think he's going to be able to get away with it quite easily in this match too, because his opponent decided to play such a greedy game. So these guys are playing mind games against mind games, and both of them are trying to outsmart the opponent, but I think they may both end up in a relatively even situation. Yeah, look at the worker count. Dead even. Both players making as many workers as they can, thinking they're playing the eco game, and, well, they are. But when both players are the eco gamer, yeah, is anybody still the eco gamer? If both people are the I don't know what the rules are, okay? We'll have to see how this one plays out. Extended thermal lens coming up right now for stats. I'm assuming ByuN is gonna go for a bit of a move out here. There's also a chance that ByuN believes he's gonna be significantly better in a long game. So because of that, he's happy to play relatively greedily here to try and essentially skip the early and mid game and go straight towards the late game. That is something that ByuN has shown us in the past. Even though he prefers being the aggressor more times than not, he is very good, of course, when it comes to playing the longer macro game too, and you can see it already reflected right now in the supply count. 69 SCVs, pretty nice. We're gonna start building up a couple more, apparently. Bit of an oversaturation right now for these bases, but we're gonna build a couple more, and then I would imagine we finally go for an attack. No push here from Stats either, right? So if you compare this to his fellow countryman Hero, who is a very aggressive Protoss player, Stats is the polar opposite here. Playing it incredibly passively, and that's what he likes to do. Alright. Extended thermal lens about 80% or so of the way done, maybe even a little bit more than that. That's gonna make life relatively easy for him, and look at the amount of stuff, look at the amount of tech that Stats is focusing on right now. I don't know if I like this move out though. I think he will eventually clean this up, but he's gonna need reinforcements. Yeah, why were you... All that hype, only to just walk into a Terran concave? Charge is not yet done. Okay, we have a couple Widow Mines right now dropped to the front as well. Battery overcharge has been nice, but it's not gonna be able to... Wow. Sometimes it's easy to forget how fragile a game of StarCraft really is. It is so easy to accidentally lose the match. And even though I've casted many games that go up to like 30, 40, sometimes even 50 minutes, at basically any point, a game can be over if you make a significant error. And, well, Stats decided to do a move out when he really didn't need to. He left his shield batteries alone and he fought into a concave of Terran bio. That is... Yeah, you just don't do that. It's a horrible decision. Those are relatively easy mistakes, though, that you can fix, of course. It's just one of those moments where you don't quite pay very close attention and suddenly you find yourself, well, without an army. And it turns out it's hard to play a military science fiction game without an army. I know. Anyways, Stats is scouting. Double proxy barracks on the other side of the map, and it gets spotted as early as is reasonable. He wants to see if there's even more here. It doesn't look like that is the case. Second barracks is maybe not going to finish, but I think it should be fine. ByuN decided to push it in such a location that the amount of surface area around this barracks that's actually harassable is relatively small. So this pesky little probe is not going to be able to shut down the SCV. And if it's up to ByuN, he is going to win this series 2-0 in a very short amount of time. Got ourselves a Zealot coming up right now as well for Stats, who did confidently build a Nexus, by the way. So he built this Nexus after scouting the proxy Rex. So yeah, he had the money for it. Decided to skip the second gas geyser. We're gonna try and hold on here with minimal amounts of units. Now, of course, shield batteries are really powerful. Bunkers are also really powerful, though. Something that cannot really be underestimated. That bunker really needs to be shut down here for Stats. I don't think you can really fight a bunker very easily here. Losing a few probes is fine. Stalker on the back it is. I think this is handled quite nicely here so far. Yeah, it looks like ByuN has actually already stopped producing a bunch of these Reapers. Zealot here mostly just to harass and be a bit of a punching bag, but stellar defense right here from Stats. Makes you wonder why we ever see double proxy Rex, because it just seemed like a very mediocre build. Maybe ByuN getting a little ahead of himself here, right? He's like, oh my god, this guy. We haven't played much lately, but I don't believe that Stats can be particularly great at the game. Let me just throw him a curveball of a build that he hasn't seen in quite a few years. Well, didn't work out all too nicely. Okay. So right now, we're in a perfect opportunity for Stats to, for example, follow this up with like 4-gate Blink Stalker. Something along those lines. I think if you do something like this against a Mech-Specs or a hero or someone like that, right? You would immediately deal with a ton of Protoss units on your side of the map. And good luck trying to hold on. Even if you play a perfect early game as Terran, it's pretty much impossible to hold on against proper Blink Stalker micro. This is obviously a suboptimal opener right here for ByuN because his economy is small and his barracks are flying home. But will Stats punish him for it? Doesn't look like it. At least not early on. We're gonna go into a sentry and we're gonna go for a follow-up here that is relatively basic. Yeah, looks like we're just settling in for a macro game. And this is Stats to a T. Like, history over the last couple of years, it would tell me that this is not the correct follow-up. Thing is, the successful Protoss games against Terran over the last few years have been relatively aggressive. A lot of success with, for example, double Stargate Phoenix openers, a lot of success with, well, Blink Stalkers, and, you know, obviously long macro games too from time to time, but usually it's a relatively aggressive way to play this matchup. And Stats, even though he just got the perfect opportunity to do an aggressive game, even now he's just expanding behind it and playing macro. That does, of course, give him multiple opportunities to let this match slip through his fingers, right? I mean, ByuN is gonna have a lot of time here to try and get back into the swing of things, and ByuN is certainly not afraid to cut a corner or two. Already adding on a pretty quick third command center, all things considered. If you look at the timing right here of the third Nexus, I mean, the CC is later, but not really by that much. If you give ByuN a finger, he will grab your entire hand, and that is what he's trying to do right now. Macro back into the swing of things and try to get that large army here eventually. Single Cyclone drop? Bit of a skill check, why not? See if that Protoss army is currently at home. Obviously, I also don't want to oversell the advantage right here that Protoss is in. Sure, it's a good situation, don't get me wrong, but it's not like you can just go and win the game either, right? Like, you would still have to micro really well. I love this. 3 probes? 4 probes? 5 probes! For 1 medevac and a cyclone. Maybe 6. Yeah, we're not done yet. Okay. This is remarkably successful. Wow, that was 6 probes. Going down for a medevac and a cyclone that he made mostly defensively. Just taking a little tour of the Protoss base. Doing a bit of sightseeing. Oh, and your left hand, we've got ourselves the Twilight Council. Look at that spire, wow. Well, there's multiple spires, I guess, here. The real spire is for the Zerg. Anyways. Macro it is right here for Stats. 1-1 research coming up for ByuN, who is happily macroing onwards. Hitting a small supply block at 69 out of 69. Not nice! Nah, hitting supply blocks is never nice. Nah, it never is. Even at 69 out of 60, no. Anyways, now that the depots have finished up though, immediately Terran does skyrocket ahead in that supply. And he's gonna go straight at above 80. 4th Nexus coming up for Stats. What do you think? I'm actually curious in hearing your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think of this passive approach? We've seen it time and time again from Zerg. We've seen it time and time again from Terran as well. And obviously it's not something that Protoss shies away from. But I would be very scared if I was Stats right now and we're just sort of playing the macro game against a world-class Terran when we had an opportunity to go and kill him. I'm a little conflicted. So he decided to skip the gases over at the 3rd base. That means he is ready to, yeah, just get a lot of mineral income and produce a large army here eventually. Like, on paper, it makes sense, right? On paper, the age-old adage is that when you're ahead, you should try and get more ahead. And that is a good rule to keep in mind when you're playing a game of StarCraft 2. Try to win the game when you are 100% certain. But if you're not 100% certain, try to just get more ahead. Consider in your head what will get me a bigger advantage than where I'm at right now. And you would imagine that playing a macro game on the back of it is going to allow him a bigger army eventually. And obviously that will be the case. It's just that this is giving Terran so much time to do the same thing that I'm starting to get, yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. Looks like SCVs has decided to go for a bit of a move out though. 2 Colossi. We have a third somewhere. Oh, there he is. Taking a bit of a ponder around the map. We do not have a Warp Prism here at the moment. I think a Warp Prism is essentially a necessity though if you do want to be aggressive with Protoss. Because a warping in the main base, for example, with Zealots is amazing. Or obviously picking up low HP units, reinforcing the main army. Dark Shrine on the back of this. We've got ourselves Gravitic Drive researching 2. That is the Warp Prism speed. Alright, double upgrades here for stats. We've got ourselves Templar Archives, but it's only for Archon production. So now SCVs is finally ready to go for a push. This is SCVs. In case you were unfamiliar, this is SCVs to a T. Are we hold positioning the Zealots? I was going to say, maybe not necessarily ideal. Good bit of splash damage right there from those Widow Mines in the Siege Tank too. Interesting engagement right here by Protoss. He held position on those Zealots for so long. He still is hold positioning right now. We're going to have to pull the trigger here at some point. Big EMPs do land here from ByuN. SCVs are just melting. Woo! And I think SCVs just did it. Yeah, so when you're ahead, get more ahead. You don't necessarily have to win the game within the next minute. He's just warping in 9 Zealots at a time, building a massive amount of stuff. At this point, the Dark Shrine should also be done, so he can easily reinforce this. Command Center itself is flying up in the air. Polar opposite as compared to game number 1, which is pretty amazing. Pretty crazy stuff. GG. Alrighty, and that will bring us to the map Alcyone, final game in this best of 3 series. I fast forwarded through the first minute and a half or so because nothing all too exciting happened. I mean, SCVs did scout the left side of the map just to make sure that there's no proxies. Nothing all too exciting though, as we just have the barracks built in a very normal spot. I know, crazy. Single Marine though. ByuN apparently skipping scouting here altogether, not checking out what's going on the other side of the map at all. So I think if we're gonna see early game action in this series, it'll have to come from ByuN. I just do not see SCVs skipping the perfect opportunity in game number 2 and then being aggressive here in game 3. I'd be very surprised. Although he is mixing it up. Nice. That's good to see. So in the previous game, he went straight towards Colossi effectively. In game number 1, he did get Blink. Now in game number 3, we're gonna go into the Stargate opener. So a little bit of build variety is always nice to see. A lot of players, especially when they first get back into the swing of things, or maybe they come back after a long break, or, I mean, maybe you just started playing, right? A lot of players will have one build order that they're comfortable with, and then different variations of that same build order. But this is a complete reversal of strats. Strategically, you cannot really play a Blink Stalker opener like you would a Stargate opener. We're not gonna get fancy with the micro, apparently. Could have tried to get the Widow Mine. SCVs are joining in the fight as well, and they will need to. He wants to get one more Marine. Shuffle it! ByuN, are you insane? I was gonna say, he's baiting it. He already had it selected. I don't know if you saw that, but he already had the selection circle on that low HP Marine. He's like, no. I want to bait it. I'm going to keep it at the front for just a little bit longer to try and see if that Adept turns around. But SCVs, he recognized the bait. Yeah. He's been baiting for many years. Some might even call him the master at baiting. Okay, sorry. No, sorry. Alright, we've got ourselves a Phoenix opener. Yep. Good old Stargate into Phoenixes. Adept on the Watchtower is going to see that Widow Mine drop, or whatever it is. Yeah, it's Widow Mines together with a bunch of Marines. It's that low HP from earlier. Back up to a full polish. Okay. There's the Robotics Bay. So Phoenixes pretty much always lead towards Colossi, of course, although this is a 2-base start. No 3rd base taken just yet. So this is a I don't want to die to anything silly opener. To be fair though, the mistake that Stats made, the most notable one in this series, was that mistake in game number 1. But that was just like a lapse in judgment, right? Like that wasn't really... It was a blunder, but a very obvious one that you're not gonna do again. At least you shouldn't be making that mistake again. Like it's one of those like, ah man, that's just kind of rough. It is not a mistake where you've been playing worse than your opponent the entire game long, right? It's not one of those mistakes where you look at it as a player of StarCraft and you're like, oh man, I don't even know what I could have done better. It was a very obvious mistake, and it's not really something that you should be all too triggered by, especially when you do end up winning game number 2. Because he never really got going in game 1. He was just happy to play the macro game, and he lost. Let's see, Phoenixes trying to pick up whatever they can. Medevac in a little bit of trouble right now. Cyclone gets the lock on, but it looks like eventually, okay, everything here stays alive with the exception of that mine. I think it was a mine that ended up going down there. The dance continued. One Widow Mine as well on the left side of the map. In one random location. +1/+1 coming up right now here for ByuN, who's transitioning towards the Stimpec upgrade. Got ourselves additional barracks coming up, and good old bio. Twilight Council. Forge. Yep, this is the Shield of Ire that we are, well, at least all of us that used to watch a lot of StarCraft back in the day. This is the Shield of Ire that we are all very familiar with. Personally, I always do like the more aggressive, the more chaotic styles in StarCraft. Mostly because it, you know, creates more early game action. So players like, for example, Dark, like Hero, they're featured on my channel quite a bit. Like ByuN as well, actually. Players that really thrive in chaos. First and foremost, because there's simply a lot of replays of theirs available, so I can simply cast a lot of their games. But secondly, also because I think it's very fun to watch and very interesting. But it is nice to know that there's still a lot of variety when it comes to the different playstyles, right? So there's not just like one clear-cut path that you have to follow as a gamer. Nah, there's ways of playing it differently. Alrighty, so now the gateway explosion is done. It's gonna be able to start warping in tons of army. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, ByuN is finishing up his own 1-1 upgrades here. Stimpec is already finished. Combat Shields is about 80% or so of the way done. Maybe a little less. Yeah, ByuN marching around the map, but he also knows that if he wants to fight, he's gonna have to fight up a ramp. Looks like Stats is already thinking about taking the base over here at the bottom of the map. Going into the Templar Archives. Will he get stormed this time around, or is it just going to be for Archons once again? +2/+2 immediately here for ByuN. Who's waiting, man? Like, he wants to capitalize on another mistake. He wants to wait and see if there's a potential here for him to get another big army cleanup, but Stats is not gonna give it to him this time around. Gravitic Drive once again for the Prism speed. Warp Prism is gonna be coming up here momentarily. Archons getting warped in. Charge coming up. But indeed, it is just gonna be Archons and no Storm. This is reminiscent of game number 2, though. Very similar setup, except this time around, ByuN's early game was a lot better. As a matter of fact, right now he does have the worker lead. 4th Command Center about halfway done. 4th Nexus just started at the bottom of the map. Relatively late on that one. So Stats' army is significant. He's got good tech. He's got a Prism here as well that now is going to finish up Gravitic Drive as it arrived on the other side of the map, which is always funny to me. Double Prism, though. Yep. There's one Prism with the main army, another one inside of the main base. That one will get killed pretty much immediately, Gravitic Drive or not. But maybe this allows an opportunity right here for this main army to get a bunch of work done. EMP did connect with a lot of those Phoenixes, so no opportunity for them to really lift up. Archon's also at low hit points. SCVs though, ooh, they're getting burnt fast. Zealots and Colossi working together in unison. We're gonna recall. Okay. One Colossus, just one Colossus. Very, very easy recall there in the end. One Colossus and an Archon. Quite a few SCVs have gone down, but I didn't love that fight overall though for stats. Problem is that this is a 4 command center Terran already, so ByuN is going to be able to build up his economy very nicely from here. And now he will be finishing up 2-2. He should be able to max out as well if he tries. He needs to make a couple supply depots right now, because he's actually going to hit a supply block. Yep, supply block right here for Terran. Luckily for him, he can drop supply depots out of the high heavens. So that's kind of neat, I guess. Still has not started up any supply depots. ByuN. Should we not? Okay. ByuN, you hit another supply block. He's just not starting up any depots. I guess he can, this is another way, I guess, of opening up supply. Just lose some units. He is not starting up any supply depots. That's crazy. He's been supply blocked for like a solid minute now. Fires up. Oh! He started up the +3 armor, cancelled it, and then went +3 attack. Amazing. This is the character arc that we always wanted to see. There's the supply depots with the hats. There's the depots that are coming up finally, but that was a rookie mistake right there from ByuN. Obviously, he had his eyes on his army, but pretty sloppy there, honestly. Blink right now coming up, an upgrade that both stats and hero would have made, well, like 5 minutes ago at latest. He does dodge most of the damage there. Massive Zealot warp in right now for stats. Hits a supply block because of it, but he is just about to start trading out some army of his own. Well, big EMP over there. Widowmine not currently burrowed, and that is not going to allow him any splash damage. A lot of Zealots just chasing down whatever they can. Okay. I don't know if I love this, to be honest. Ah, what a mess. Ultimately, I think this is much better for ByuN, although there are a lot more Protoss reinforcements coming up. I was almost going to say Zerg reinforcements. With the way that these Zealots are running around, it does kind of look like they're pretending to be a bunch of Zerglings. Warp in over here as well, which is probably the reason why we've had some chaos in the main fight, because these players are trying to micro multiple angles at once. A couple Archons being warped in over here as well. Disruptor does get its Nova denied. Suddenly, though, this massive amount of Protoss just made its way towards a mineral line, and SCVs are falling left, right, and center. Another flank coming in. More SCVs are gonna die. Wow, okay. Suddenly, Stats has decided to flip the script entirely. He's been rehearsing the same strategy over and over and over again, and he said, well, you know what? What about I just make Zealots? But sir, what about these other units? What about Zealots? Have you considered making Zealots? Just make more of those 50 SCVs down. 50 SCVs down. That is crazy. Just Zealots? Okay. Well, that did not go the way that I anticipated that at all. That is so many workers down the drain, it's actually absurd. Alright. Ultimately, I'm gonna take a screenshot. I took a screenshot. That's for the thumbnail. Ultimately, I want to have the 54 dead SCVs on the... Yeah, of course. I don't know if I'm gonna end up actually using it, but I'll have the screenshot. Anyways, ultimately, Terran does defend all of this. But that is very, very, very crazy. +3/+3 coming up right now for stats. So he did skip the gases at the 3rd. He did, however, now take them at the bottom of the map over at the 4th. And he is going to go for the golden minerals now, too. This Widowmine drop is going to have to get a lot of value. ByuN, by the way, even after losing all those SCVs, is still finding himself with a supply lead. Okay. Not achieving all too much over there. How in the world does ByuN actually still have supply lead? Well, I guess it's because we have 93 zealots going down. 93 zealots? It's a lot of zealots, guys. I'm not gonna lie. 100 minerals each. That makes up for like 2/3 of all the mineral losses in this game. Okay. We're gonna go into some shield upgrades as well. Obviously that benefits all the Protoss units, in particular the Archons. And ByuN is just trying to play catch-up right now. It almost looks like he's a little bit stunned. You know, like a boxer in a ring that gets punched in the face one too many times? It kind of... it kind of looks like that right now, where ByuN is like, I'm still standing? How in the world am I still standing? I thought I'd be flat on the floor by now. I think the referee did at least, you know, count a couple of times. But ByuN is actually fine. I think he's alright, actually. 63 is supply, caught up in workers. He's got over 100 army supply as well. This is fine. It's just that this game is very difficult to read right now for the Terran. Here's the Zealots once again, by the way. We have another 31 Zealots as part of this army. Big stim activated. Immediately, Stats decides to pull back to warp in more Zealots. Because of course. Why would you make anything but Zealots? Everything else is just a decoration for Zealots. And an Archon or two, because sometimes we have gas. But, you know, mostly just Zealots. He's playing surprisingly cautiously here with the Zealots, though, which is also kind of funny, because usually they're just sort of thrown in. He's waiting for the perfect opportunity for him to hit the trigger on the attack move button, and it may be just right now. There it is. Archons in the front as well. Colossi shooting lasers from the back. Those Vikings not really achieving all too much. Another 17 SCVs end up going down. Okay. What a game. This is actually kind of a crazy game. The fact that this is working... There's another 9 Zealots. The fact that this is working is actually kind of boggling my mind a little bit. He's got 12 gateways, and he's really just making Zealots. Now he's got some extra gas again, so he'll probably warp in some High Templar if he can. This is too many losses. Too many losses on the side of ByuN. I mean, still though, he may be able to clean this up, but... So that's 102 dead SCVs in this game. Okay. And just like a dazed boxer, eventually ByuN stumbles over and falls. It's Stats who obtains the victory 2-1. I'll be honest with you, that's not what I expected after that first match in this series.